Welcome to our IDEA training for faculty and lecturers here at Utah State University. I'm Peter Crosby from the Office of Analysis, Assessment, and Accreditation, and today we're going to be walking you through a variety of different tools and the new system that we use to access our IDEA or IDEA student evaluations. Before we start, we did want to give you a brief introduction into our office. So we here at the Office of Analysis, Assessment, and Accreditation are responsible for a variety of institutional research. We help faculty and administrators gather data about the university, and specifically as you're concerned about our relationship today, we're also responsible for providing the infrastructure associated with the IDEA student surveys. In today's training, we're going to walk through accessing your faculty dashboard. We're going to talk a little bit about how you select your objectives and how you go ahead and understand what your form is going to look like for your students. We'll talk about interpreting those results as well. We're going to talk a little bit about the changes that have been made to the IDEA form compared to our previous iterations of it. And then we'll talk a little bit about Canvas integration and some important timelines. Now today what we're going to start with is a focus on our new delivery model, which is called Campus Labs. In the past, in order to receive an objective selection form, known as a faculty information form, or if I'm a student to take the survey, there was a variety of web links that would be sent out and a variety of emails as reminders. We have transitioned to a new program called Campus Labs that is the new interface to access the IDEA SRI tool. What we are going to spend some time on today is walking through what that tool looks like and how to go ahead and navigate through the faculty dashboard. In order to access the faculty dashboard, we would go to the link that's on the bottom right here, usu.campuslabs.com/faculty, and we're actually going to navigate there right now. So as you first log into your dashboard, you should be greeted with your home screen. Here I have my name across the top, I have a term selection option, and then I have a variety of courses that I'm teaching for that particular term. Up here across the top, we have several different options that we'll be navigating through today. We have our home screen, we have our course evaluation question screen, we have our feedback option, we have what's called the OSF manager, and then we have what's called trend analysis. Like I said, we'll navigate through each of these today. So here on our home screen, we have our term drop down. So as we collect more data from more terms, so summer starting 2019 and then moving through fall for this current term and then on into the future, you'll be able to cycle through these terms and see different results for each. I'm currently in the fall 2019 term, and I see here that I have two courses listed. I have USU 1300 and then I have a USU 1010. The USU 1300 course currently has an evaluation set up for it. The USU 1010 course does not, and it actually tells me right in there that an evaluation does not exist for this section. This should allow you as a faculty member to have very quick access to whether or not your course is set up to be evaluated. If you're not sure if you're going to receive an IDEA survey for a particular course, you just log into your dashboard. If the course doesn't show up under a course evaluation section, you know that it has not been scheduled for an evaluation. In this specific situation, you would want to reach out to your department staff. They can go ahead and set up an evaluation for you, and if you have any questions or concerns about that process, please feel free to contact our office. Here, looking at my USU 1300 course, I see that I have a course evaluation that starts on November 17th and that ends on the 7th of December. So with a real quick at-a-glance view, I know when my evaluation opens, when my evaluation closes, and I also can see that my results will be available on the 9th of December. One of the things that we're most excited about in this transition to the new Campus Labs platform is our ability to get you your IDEA survey results much quicker. In the past, sometimes it could take several weeks, if not longer, for us to go ahead and have the IDEA results processed and sent back to us and made available to you as an instructor. With the Campus Lab system, your results are automatically processed and available to you within 48 hours of the survey closing. We hope that this will help facilitate honest review of the course results and allow you as an instructor time to reflect upon them as you think about teaching your upcoming courses. Additionally, I see that there's an enrollment number. This information is all pulled from Banner. So if I see course information on the screen that doesn't appear to be accurate, if there's course enrollment information that does not seem to reflect what my actual student numbers are, this is a conversation that you would want to have with your department staff. Because again, our office pulls this information directly in from the Banner system. We do updates on a regular basis, typically once a week, in order to make sure that the student enrollment information and the faculty assigned to teach a course reflect accurately what is located in the Banner system. Now moving on, we're going to talk about how we go ahead and select our learning objectives in this new ideas delivery model. Right here under my course, I see a button that says Objective Selection Form. When I click on that link, it will take me to this page. This is my objective selection form. And there's a big yellow bar here that says this form is soon going to be replaced by the OSF Manager. We're going to visit the OSF Manager in just a minute. As I look down through here, I notice that I have some important information. Under Select Learning Objectives, I see that there's an indication that I should select between 3 to 5 learning objectives and marking them either as important or as essential. I notice that if I go ahead and leave a learning objective in this minor category, it receives a score of 0. What this means practically is that any learning objective you don't mark as important or essential does not count towards your IDEA evaluation score set. This is intentional. Not all courses are designed to meet the same kinds of learning objectives. There's actually 13 different learning objectives available on this form. You'll notice on my form that I have marked 2 as essential and 1 as important. That's because my specific class that I teach is designed to go ahead and help students develop more effective writing skills and to think more critically about the world around them. Additionally, we feel that in order to write effectively, you need to have some capacity to do effective research. And so this learning how to find, evaluate, and use resources is marked as an important objective for this specific course. The rest of my learning objectives are actually marked in the minor category. That's because my class is not necessarily designed to go ahead and help my students acquire members or skills as working as members of a team, and it's not really designed to go ahead to develop creative capacities associated with inventing or designing or performing in art or music or drama. And so as you look through this form, you should not be concerned that you're not selecting all 13 learning objectives. That would actually be inappropriate for the vast majority of courses on campus. Again, we'd want to highlight 3 to 5 objectives that are important or essential to our course. Now, a question that we often get is, well, how do I know if an objective is important or essential? And does it really matter if I select 3 to 5, or can I just select 1 or 2? To answer that first question of how do you determine between an important or an essential learning objective, you should go ahead and thoughtfully consider what your course is most focused on. If this learning objective is a core part of what you hope your students are going to make progress in as they take your class, then it's most likely an essential learning objective. Everything that we do in my course is designed around helping them to think critically. And our only assignment is writing. They write 7 papers. Those are essential things associated with the actual design of my class. This concept of research, though, is important, if not necessarily an essential focus of the class. We don't dedicate significant time or resources to teach the students how to effectively research. We spend some time on it, but again, it's not the core focus of the class. That means that this is an important learning objective for me, but perhaps not an essential one. Now, I can't answer whether or not each of these is going to be a minor, an important, or an essential learning objective for your specific course, but we are always happy to consult and help you understand perhaps how to think about your course design and what learning objective might be most appropriate. Now, to answer our second question, does it really matter if I select between 3 to 5? Most frequently, we get this question when people are interested in selecting fewer than 3 learning objectives. The reason that we counsel against this is because sometimes your teaching style just doesn't mesh well with your students. Sometimes you're going to approach teaching a specific learning objective in a way that just doesn't seem to connect well. If you dedicated your entire IDEA SRI form to just a single objective, so I only marked here, for example, developing skill in writing as essential, but the way that I teach how to write effectively doesn't connect with the majority of my students, that means when I get my IDEA SRI results, I have put all of my eggs in one basket, so to speak. And so my IDEA results are not going to be a positive reflection of the work that I have put into my course, and they might not really be an accurate reflection of all of the different things my course is designed to do. Because maybe while I didn't connect well with how to write, I definitely connected well with how to think critically. And by having these two objectives selected as essential objectives, it helps me both identify the core of my course, and it provides a buffer against my inability perhaps to connect with certain students on certain topics. Now, this objective selection form has to be completed for every course that has an IDEA SRI. You need to make sure that this objective selection form is completed before the student completes their part of the survey. Additionally, we would encourage you to spend some time thinking about these objectives well in advance of selecting them. Now, as I said, we are going to spend some time and visit the OSF Manager. I can click this link here to access it, or I can access it by clicking this link at the top of the page. So I click on OSF Manager, and it takes me to a different screen. Here we have a couple of different options. So I can select a term here, and I can select a course here. And this acts as a comparison model as I think about the current courses listed in this section of the screen. This allows me to see what objectives I selected previously. So if I go ahead and have this course here, this is the exact same course and it mirrors these objectives. But maybe I want to say there's a different term or a different course that I want to compare to. So if I go to summer 2019 and I select this test course that we've put in, I would be able to see if those are the kinds of objectives that I would want to select for this course as well. Now on this OSF Manager, it's pretty easy to see what each of these numbers means. I just run my mouse over the top of it, and a window or a bubble will pop up that indicates to me what that specific learning objective is. Additionally, I can click here under each of the learning objectives, and it will pop up an information screen, and this is where I can go ahead and select whether this objective is minor, whether it's important, or whether it's essential. If I don't make any changes on this particular screen, I won't see any kind of save feature happen. Now, in order to close this particular window, I apologize, you just click right back on the letter. And again, I can work through each of these if I needed to do so in turn. This OSF Manager is going to be how we select learning objectives in the future. Right now, it's just a beta version. So as you are thinking about how to select your course learning objectives, you should use this objective selection form option. Okay, the next thing that we would like to go ahead and talk about is your ability now to add custom questions. So if I click here on this course evaluations result, I see an option to go ahead and view or edit my particular evaluation. As I click on that button, I'm presented with two pieces of information. On one side of the screen, it shows me all of the questions that my students are going to be asked. So I can see exactly what kind of survey they're going to complete. On the other side of the screen, there's an option to go ahead and add custom questions. If I go ahead and click Edit, this takes me to a very simple interface that allows me to create custom questions. Now, the complexity of these questions is limited, so we have some single select and some text box options, but these should allow you as an instructor or faculty member to really isolate specific information about a course that you're interested in knowing. If you used a new teaching method in your class, if you used different content that you've used previously, maybe you had your students participate in a group assignment that has not historically been there, you could go ahead and write custom questions to solicit information about that. Now, a frequent question that we have had here is, when does the question need to be in? And do these questions count against my IDEA scores? These questions need to be completed before the student starts their survey. And so this survey is designed to go live on the 17th of November, which means if I wanted to create custom questions, I would need to have those custom questions in no later than the 16th of November. Again, custom questions have to be created before the students can access their survey. The second question, does this impact my IDEA results? We're happy to report that no, it doesn't in any way. You're welcome to ask whatever custom questions you would like. You don't have to ask any custom questions at all. But if you do include custom questions, they don't count towards the scoring of the form in any way. Additionally, there's another tool that is designed to allow you to get feedback that does not count against your IDEA results. And that's under this feedback option here at the top. If I click on feedback, I notice that there's a screen that pops up that talks about a survey that can encourage students to go ahead and give me some information about how they experienced my specific class on any given day. There's a link over here that I would go ahead and provide to my students if I decided to use this option. So here I have a list of my courses, and I have a start button, which if I go ahead and hit start feedback session, creates a survey for my students. After that survey has been created and closed, I have the reporting option. If I click on reporting, had we had results for these feedback sessions, we would see them here. And it helps answer questions about whether or not students were engaged on any specific day. You can run a feedback session as frequently as you would like. You don't have to run feedback sessions at all. Feedback session results are not counted in your IDEA survey. A couple of things to note. Unlike your regular IDEA evaluation, the questions for the student feedback are not customizable. Every student will be asked the exact same questions every time the survey is administered, and you cannot add custom questions to them. That being said, the questions that are currently asked are designed to help you understand whether or not students found that particular class period helpful in progressing towards learning for any kind of content. And it always ends with the question, did you understand the material covered today? The other thing about this feedback option is that unlike the IDEA SRI, or Student Rating of Instruction, this instant feedback option is not anonymous. That means as I get results in, I could click on an individual student and it would tell me how that student had answered any one of these questions on any time they had responded to my instant feedback survey. Now the purpose for this is to allow you, the instructor, to have a little bit more insight into specific student needs. So in this particular situation, if I had a student that had trouble understanding the material being covered every single day, then I would go ahead perhaps and reach out to that student and try and proactively seek ways to engage with them. Again, this is not a required tool. It is a tool, however, that is available to you should you decide to use it. If you have any questions about how best to utilize the instant feedback option, please feel free to reach out to our office. All right, so in our dashboard, we have covered our home page. We have covered how to go ahead and add custom questions. We've talked about how to go ahead and select objectives for our course, and we've talked about the instant feedback option. The last thing that we want to discuss on this specific page is how we go ahead and access results from prior terms. So up here on my selected term option, I'm going to change it to summer of 2019. After I do that, I see that I have a summary report available, and then I have a view results button here that will be next to each of your courses. While the summary report can be useful, we actually encourage you to go to the view results option because we believe that it's easier to understand the information here and it parses it out in a way that is more accessible. So I'm going to click on view results. As I look at this, it gives me a summary of my class. It tells me that I had 2 students enrolled. Both of my students responded, which meant that my response rate was 100%. As I scroll down through here, I have some summative scores, I have some quantitative scores, and then I have some qualitative feedback. So this is taking all of the information collected by the SRI form and making it accessible to you in easy to access ways. Here's my summary score, and we'll notice that my summary score is currently using an adjusted average against the IDEA database. There are 2 different ways to view our results. We have adjusted averages and we have raw averages. The adjusted average takes into account different factors that might have impacted your survey results. As I look at this description of course and students and expand that window by clicking on the little caret, I see that my student population, as they self-reported in response to some core questions, was perhaps a little bit less motivated and a little bit less engaged in this particular class than the average was. I know that because their scores are here and the national average scores are here, and also because those scores are in the far left box. This means as I hover over, these scores fell within the lowest 10%. So the way that the IDEA scoring works is we have a number, and then that number is compared statistically to other results. Now, if my students were highly motivated individuals, and these raw average scores were, say, 5s or 4.5s, we would have found that compared to group averages, we probably would have been in one of these top 2 boxes. either the top 30 percentile or the top 10 percentile. We can see this as we change this adjusted average down to raw average. So before I do that, again, you will notice that my adjusted average scores are all in the top 10 percentile. As I move this to raw averages, my scores actually go down a little bit. This is what the students actually responded to the survey. So this does raise the question, well, why do we have raw averages and why do we have adjusted averages, and which one do we use? Our raw averages are just the raw score that's provided. The adjusted average is provided because not every teacher teaches the same course and not every teacher has the same student population. I personally, for example, tend to teach freshmen, and I teach a general education course. That means that the students that I teach, there's a large course size, anywhere from 140 to 200, and those students tend to take my class not because they necessarily have a burning desire to take it, but because it meets a general ed requirement that they have to fulfill. If you contrast that kind of student population, say, with an instructor that teaches a graduate course, there's only 5 students, and each of those students is highly motivated to be in that particular class. They're very interested in the content, and they very much would like to be there to learn that content. Those are 2 very different kinds of student populations. The adjusted average is in place to take into account the fact that not all instructors have the same kinds of students. Additionally, the adjusted average only adjusts up. And so as you look at your own results, you should be able to see an adjusted average and a raw average, and if you teach populations of students that are perhaps a little bit less engaged, or you teach very large courses, your adjusted averages will be higher than your raw scores. How we in our office determine which set of scores to use is based off of a very simple logic model, which we will discuss in just a minute. Now, as I'm looking over the rest of my results, I have a quantitative tab and I have a qualitative tab. The quantitative tab gives me a nice clean breakout of how students responded on any given question. So I have a mean score, I have a standard deviation score, I have how many students decided not to respond on that particular question, and I have the total amount of responses available. This is very useful, especially as I start to teach new courses, because while only certain learning objectives are going to be scored on my evaluation, one that I marked as important or essential, students do respond to all of the questions. That means that I, as an instructor, can look through those results and get a good feel for how my students thought my course did in all of the learning objectives, regardless of whether or not I personally thought it was important or essential to the class. Additionally, as I'm looking through that, because of the standard deviation and the mean scores, I can understand if this teaching style that I'm using connected well with the majority of my students, or if my students had kind of a polarization. So did many students like this and many students not like this particular progress on objective? Or do I have a vast majority of students who said, yes, I did make progress, or no, I really didn't make progress? Again, that information can be helpful as I think about how to design my courses. And if you need any questions understanding these results, again, our office is happy to offer any assistance you might want. And those results are available both for the learning objectives and then for the questions that the students respond as we understand a little bit better about their self-reported motivation. If I do need to print this report at any time to include in my records, I just click on Print Report. And an option and a new screen will pop up. You can print this to a PDF, or you can go ahead and you can print it to an actual printer if you need a paper copy. And this is what those printed results look like. So that ends our time in the dashboard. If you do have questions or concerns about how to access the dashboard, about how to utilize the features in here, again, our office is always happy to answer those questions. We do want to return a little bit now to some additional information about IDEA. And we're going to visit a couple of other resources that are available to you as an instructor to make sure that you really get the most out of the system that you can. The first thing that we want to talk about, again, is how we in our office delineate whether to use a raw score or an average score. The determinant factor is your progress on relevant objective. So again, we select between 3 to 5 learning objectives. Our students rate their progress, self-perception, on those learning objectives, and then we were assigned a score value for that. If the raw value of that particular score set is higher than the average value of that score set, we're going to go ahead and use our raw scores. Now, if the adjusted value of this progress on relevant objective scoring is higher than our raw scores, then we're going to go ahead and use our adjusted scoring. Our office provides a variety of reports, some of which we'll review today, and when we provide those reports, this is the logic model that is used to go ahead and display that information. Again, if the raw scores are higher for progress on relevant objective, we display your raw scores. If your adjusted scores were higher, we go ahead and display your adjusted scores. One of the frequent questions that we get is, well, how do I improve my response rates? Because our office has found a correlation between response rate and success using the IDEA survey instrument. Instructors who have higher response rates generally have better overall IDEA scores. And so these are some things that we have found to be effective as we've worked with a variety of faculty across the campus. The very first thing is the most basic. Make sure that the IDEA learning objectives are incorporated into your syllabus and into the natural flow of the course. They should be clearly listed in the syllabus, that this is what our course is going to help you make progress on, and you really want to make sure that you're communicating that the reason students participate in certain learning activities is in part to help them make progress on those learning objectives. So as an example, when we assign one of our papers in class, we assign the paper and we talk about the fact that the reason that our students are writing that paper is because we want them to learn how to write better. And the only way they can do that is with practice. So while they might not love the assignment, doing the assignment will help them become a more effective writer. The other thing that you can do is you can include the IDEA process by go ahead and creating an assignment for that. So we actually have a tool set that our office provides via this link here that will allow you to go ahead and request that an assignment be created directly in Canvas. You'll go to the tool, you'll fill out the information, it's very user-friendly, and then our office will go ahead and automatically create an assignment in Canvas for you. If you want that assignment to be extra credit, you can go ahead and say it's worth 0 points, but they can earn up to 5 points or 2 points or 10 points, whatever it is, if they complete the survey. Our office, once the survey is closed, will go ahead and automatically populate Canvas with scores appropriate based off of your request. And that is an important thing to know. Our office will not complete the Canvas upload, nor will our office provide information about who specifically has completed the survey until the survey is closed. Now, you as an instructor can see your response rate at any time simply by logging into your dashboard. But in order to protect student anonymity, we will not release information about which students have completed the survey until after the survey has been closed. Now, some faculty like to go ahead and do an informal midterm evaluation. Our office is happy to go ahead and help provide that for you as well. Please just reach out to me, Peter Crosby, and I can go ahead and get that set up for you. Now, some faculty offer individual or course-wide incentives, again, speaking of this assignment earlier, in order to encourage students to participate. Now, if you decide to offer an assignment, you can make it a 0-point assignment that's worth 0 points of either credit or extra credit. A 0-point assignment in Canvas can still be an effective way to encourage your students to take the survey, because as they log into Canvas and as you assign a due date to that assignment, they'll receive notifications. And if you're an instructor that uses Canvas for other kinds of scheduling, they're already going to be in the habit of completing those assignments in Canvas. Whether or not you want to offer credit, our office has no official view. We can tell you that we have seen no statistical correlation between offering credit for the survey and higher survey scores. What we can tell you, though, is that, again, instructors with higher response rates tend to receive better results on the IDEA form. We want to go ahead and show you this as an example of maybe how to improve our results using some of the methods about communication. These actually happen to be my teaching results. So when I started here at the university back in 2014, this is my very first set of IDEA evaluation scores. And they're not bad, but they certainly perhaps could be better. As I improved in teaching, I actually made one significant change between this term and this term, and then I became more effective in this term. And that was really just communicating to my students why we were engaging in the work that we were doing. So if we, again, had them write a paper, engage in a difficult conversation in class, talk through very difficult topics and make them think critically about them, what we started doing more effectively, as we have taught more frequently, is making sure that students understand why they participate in that work. And it's been our experience at AAA that we have very good faculty and instructors at Utah State. We generally have a very high level of teaching here at the university. One thing that we can improve upon, though, is effectively communicating with students about the work that they do in our classrooms. Why am I engaging in this group work assignment? Why am I doing this difficult math quiz? Let's go ahead and explain the value of that work to the students. Be very transparent. And it's been our experience that as instructors do that more frequently, their idea results actually improve and increase over time. Additionally, we would really encourage you to honestly review your results every time you receive them and engage with your peers about best practices. You can go ahead and ask your peers what they do effectively in their classroom. All of the idea results are public access to anybody that has an active A number. That means if you're teaching a course for the first time, you can look up results on our website, which we will show you shortly, and you can compare instructor results and say, well, this person seems to do this very well. How can I also do that very well? And reach out to them. Again, our office is always happy to act as a resource, and we're more than happy to answer any questions you might have, but some of the real experts that we have in teaching here at Utah State are your peers and colleagues. They're individuals that have taught this content before, that know how to connect well with students for that specific content, and they can help give you guidance on maybe some best ways to approach teaching your set of students. Again, as we were talking about some of that statistical detail and why it's valuable, you can use that statistical detail to go ahead and understand if your course really is aligned the way that you think it is. If you find that you have learning results as you look at the statistical comparison for these learning objectives, where you seem to do really, really well in comparison to the national average, ask yourself, was that intentional? Is my course doing something perhaps that I didn't anticipate? And if you're not doing as well in a specific learning objective, ask yourself why. And if you need help on how to go ahead and approach teaching certain learning objectives in a different way, our website can actually help provide some guidance on that as well. So this is our website, usu.edu/AAA. Here on the main landing page, we have a variety of resources accessible to you. Here under Quick Links, you'll see course evaluations. This is where I can search any course evaluation results here at Utah State. I have a cumulative result for faculty, which gives me, an individual instructor or faculty member, my results in a variety of graphs and charts. I also have this Idea Center option under the AAA links in the center of the page. If I click on that option, I have a variety of other links, including the Idea Faculty FAQ. If I click on the Idea Faculty FAQ, it will take me to a page that contains information about the IDEA system, as well as information about these 13 learning objectives. And if I look at one of those learning objectives and I decide, I need some help understanding how to teach this more effectively, I can just click on it. And as I click on it, it takes me to the IDEA page for that specific learning objective that contains a brief overview of this learning objective. It talks about why it's important, and as I continue to scroll down the page, it'll actually take me to some information about how I can assess that learning objective and how I might be able to teach it more effectively. Again, these are best practices that have been gathered from faculty across institutions throughout the nation. Those resources, again, are found on our website, usu.edu/AAA. I clicked here on the Idea Center, and I clicked on the Idea Faculty FAQ. And that took me to a page that has a variety of other resources associated with the Idea SRI. As we return and finish out our training today, we do want to give you a timeline for the current semester. Now, if you're watching this training video after the fall 2019 term, these dates are not going to exactly align, but the general principles do. So for this particular term, student surveys are going to open on the 17th of November, and they're going to close on the 7th of December for most courses. Now, if you teach a 7-week course, or you're involved in our concurrent enrollment programs, or your course needs a different date range outside of that window, reach out to your department staff. They can go ahead and set up an evaluation time period that works best for your individual classes. The objective selection form for this term became available early in September. Every term, we will make the objective selection form available early in the term, typically within 1 to 2 weeks of day 15. This gives you, an instructor, plenty of time to access your dashboard, evaluate whether or not all of your courses are there, and to select objectives that you feel are meaningful for your individual classes. Now, again, as we had discussed earlier, the OSF form must be completed before the survey close date. That will always remain consistent regardless of what term you're watching this particular training. You have to complete your objective selection form prior to the students completing their survey. If you do not complete your objective selection form before the student survey closes, all of your results will be defaulted to an important objective across all 3 learning objectives. This will most likely have a negative impact on the overall potential IDEA SRI. If you need some additional resources, we have some included links here. Again, we visited our faculty FAQ page just a minute ago, and then we have some additional videos that you can watch that talk about how to select learning objectives, some best practices around response rates, and answering other questions or concerns that frequently come up from faculty and instructors. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out to our office. Again, I'm Peter Crosby from the Office of Analysis, Assessment, and Accreditation here at Utah State University. I appreciate you spending a few minutes with me today, and we look forward to working with you in the future.